Hey everybody, welcome back to Awesome Finds. Now I am excited to show you a lot of my recent 60s pickups. Now of course with a lot of my more recent Awesome Finds videos, these all didn't come from one location. I picked them up at different record stores, flea markets, thrift stores, that sort of a thing. So let's kick things off with the newest record in this batch, King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King. Now this is the 200 gram 2010 pressing, and this is one I recommended in my review episode for the album. Overall, I really like the presentation. This gatefold album cover is really well done, high quality. Let me show you the record itself. It mimics those pink island labels that are so sought after of UK pressings. Now, I listened to this and overall, I kind of was disappointed. And I think a lot of what I'm hearing that I don't like in the US pressing that I have isn't so much that second generation mastering issue that they had. And it's more just how this album was originally recorded. The drums are the main thing that I gravitate towards, and they just feel so kind of tinny and far away and not present. And I feel like, I guess the best analogy I can think of is that I was hoping this album would be the first time you watch your favorite movie on Blu-ray when all you ever had before was VHS. That next level of clarity, and it wasn't. That being said, it is a very good pressing. I just found that there is a lot of noise apparent. I say it's worth picking up, but I didn't really find it that much better than an original US pressing. Now that being said, I haven't heard an original UK pressing, but I do find that even with, it did come with a digital download code, I should probably mention that. And I found it interesting because even the downloads, when I played them back, I heard the same issues. So I think it has more to do with just how it was recorded. So anyway, if you don't own it, you need to pick one up. And I still recommend this edition, especially if you can get one with the download code, because that's really convenient. Moving on, we have the Strawberry Alarm Clock, Incense and Peppermints. Oh my goodness, I saw this. I got it off an auction. I had to have it. And you know what? I was surprised how good this album is. I mean, I thought it was gonna be very cheesy 60s, trying to cash in on that psychedelic sound, but you know, these guys are pretty legit, despite their funny name. Yeah, so there's the back cover. Incense and Peppermints, I believe, was their big hit off of here. But yeah, it's a great album if you're in the psych. It's not that expensive, and it's worth having. If you want to start your collection, I would definitely pick up this. This is one of those more, I wouldn't call it a deeper cut, but it's definitely an outlier. It was popular, but not that popular. And so you could probably pick it up 15, 20 bucks in decent condition. And I should show you the record real quick. It's on Universal. Pretty cool stuff. It's not the best. It's a little scuffed up, but it does play well. So I'd say like a VG plus, maybe something like that. Moving on to the Dave Clark 5. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I always feel like these guys kind of get the short end of the stick. They kind of got lumped into that whole British invasion sound alike. To me, they're a great band on their own right, and they're definitely worth picking up if you like that early Beatles sound. I mean, they are very similar, but they do their own thing, and they're quite good. So this is on Epic, and this one's not in the best shape. It's got that thing. I should probably clean this, to be honest. But yeah, I believe Glad All Over is the hit song off of here. But all these tracks, it's just a fun 60s party record. And of course, it wouldn't be the 60s without some Beatles. And this is something new by the Beatles. Believe it or not, I didn't have this album before. My friend dropped off a bunch of records he wanted to sell, and he was gonna have me sell them for him. And I was like, can I have some of these? I'll give you money for them. And this was one of the records I grabbed. And this is actually a pretty good Capitol record. I know Capitol gets a bad rap for Beatles records, but this one is pretty good because it takes a lot of the songs from A Hard Day's Night that didn't appear on the United Artists soundtrack, and then it takes some that were on an EP. So they weren't necessarily taking them from any one album per se. So kind of, it's a nice little comp. It's kind of cool. The one kind of weird thing on here is the I Want to Hold Your Hand, but sung in German. And this is the stereo version. Now this, I believe, is a later 60s pressing because it has that Capitol Green label. But there you go. Something new. It's worth picking up. All right, up next we have two from the Rolling Stones. Now this first one is the Rolling Stones Now. It's a mono pressing and it's very beat up, but I couldn't resist it. It was $1, you know what I mean? And what I find so interesting about this is that there's very few Rolling Stone pen songs on here. I would say less than half are ones that they wrote. And this is, got those maroon London labels. And, you know, it's definitely been loved. It's been played a lot. And for my collection, as I'm trying to build a complete Rolling Stone discography on vinyl, this is going to be a placeholder until I can find one in better condition. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but right here, there's actually Braille. So I got this from a thrift store, and this obviously came from... because they had a bunch of records that had Braille tape on it. So I have to assume either it came from a private collector who was blind, or I'm thinking it came from like a blind institute or a library of such that catered to the seeing impaired. But you know, I think I'm gonna leave that on there because it has some character behind it. There's some history, you know what I mean? I love to think about stuff like that. I think as a purist, as a fan, you should own this, but in terms of getting their hits and as a classic album, I would say probably not, but this next one certainly is. And I am referring to Aftermath. This is the stereo version on London Records, and I believe this is an original pressing. Get those London blue labels. Now this is also, you know, the cover isn't much better. Well, the cover's not in the best condition, but the record itself is well worn. But to me, like this era of Stones, I mean, having a worn record almost adds to the sound of it, because it is very gritty, in your face, almost garage rock music, and I just freaking love Paint It Black. It is so good. I mean, this is a fantastic album, and I believe the UK edition is a little different. What else is on here? Lady Jane, Under My Thumb. Ah, man, this is a classic album, a must-own. You guys got to pick it up. All right, up next, we have the Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies. Classic album. I already reviewed it, but I never owned a copy. Now, this is a repressing. It's the more popular UK repressing. I forget when it was done. Anyway, I know there's a better pressing out now, but this one I bought before that. It was one of those things where I was like, well, I'll get free shipping if I buy one more. You know how they sucker you in that way? Anyway, so I got this one, and it's just, love this album. Must own, pick it up, guys. Now, speaking of the Zombies, the keyboardist Rod Argent, after the Zombies disbanded, he went and formed this band, and he had moderate success with it. I don't think they ever were a major band like the Zombies were, but this was their debut album. And it was funny because it didn't register to me what this was when I found it at the thrift store, but I was like, wait, Argent, that sounds familiar. And then I flipped it over, and I was like, oh, yeah, Rod Argent. And then it says Zombies, and I'm like, oh, I have to get this. And it's clearly not in the best shape. And I don't know why I have so many. Oh, that's a lyric sheet. So it does come with a lyric sheet. That's pretty cool. But why do I have this plastic sheet in there? That doesn't make any sense. The record itself actually is in really good shape, despite that little nick right there. It's not gonna be Zombies #2. This is definitely their own sort of thing, but it's worth looking into if you love the Zombies. Definitely check it out. Up next, I got the Pentangle with Sweet Child. I hope I said their name right. Pentacle? Maybe that's how you say it. I really don't know, guys. And it's a gatefold, and there you have the band. And on the back, you get what looks like an advertisement for other albums, but really this is the track listings, and they have little credits here and there, which I really like. I like this layout. This album really intrigued me. I was kind of hoping it would be a little more out there, a little bit more psychedelic, kind of cool 60s. This was kind of more country-esque. There were some live tracks on here. It was a little bit more down to earth than I was expecting. It's still good, and it's so interesting for me, because I didn't grow up at this time, obviously, and it's so interesting to hear commonalities between this band and, say, like Country Joe and the Fish and stuff like that. They would be a good warm-up act for Zappa. So this is on Reprise, and you have the W7 logo right there. And overall, it's in pretty good shape. This is, yeah, side 2 and side 3. They come in your kind of generic Warner inner sleeves that are pretty beat up. I should get some better sleeves for this record. And there you go. You know, overall, I'm kind of on the fence if I were to recommend this, but I think if you're a fan of this era's music, this is a nice deeper cut to check out. Up next, we have the Turtles, It Ain't Me, Babe. Love that cover. Oh man, I was stoked to find this. I actually don't know where I think I got this from the thrift store. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Look at that black and white photo. So cool. The record itself is in pretty good shape. There is this scuff, which is unfortunate on side 2, but otherwise, yeah, it's pretty good. The Turtles. Oh man, you can't really go wrong with these guys. It doesn't have their big hit on here, but the whole album is just very consistent, kind of that hard-hitting mid-60s, mid to late 60s sound, you know what I mean? Oh, I didn't realize this is according to this is their first album. So I guess it's their debut. You know, you can learn something when you read the back of an album cover. Well, there you go. Definitely pick this one up if you see it. Continuing the vein of hard-hitting 60s rock, we have Blue Cheer with their album that I have no idea how to pronounce, Vince Bus Eruptum. I know I'm saying that wrong because I looked it up and I could not find anyone who could explain to me how this is supposed to be pronounced. I have no idea. I'm sure you guys will correct me down in the comments, and I really do appreciate that, so please proceed. Anyway, so Blue Cheer, what are they? This is their debut album. It's on Philips. Really cool cover, actually. You got this silver sheen to it, and this is actually reliefed. Like, you can feel the lettering and stuff. Really cool cover. It's in really good shape for a thrift store record, and what's so significant about this band is they're sort of credited with coming up with prototypical metal songs, sort of like the genesis of what metal would become, and that is their cover of Eddie Cochran's Summertime Blues. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard that song. Whether or not you knew it was Blue Cheer, go back and check it out and you'll hear what I mean. The best thing I can say is that that's not totally representative of the rest of the album. The rest of the album is very loud, but it's more in that blues rock realm versus that more metal sound. I gotta say though, it's great. It's a great album. Definitely pick it up. It's a great conversation piece. It's a piece of history. It's a stepping stone for what would become later. Like you think about Black Sabbath and all these other guys, they were probably listening to Blue Cheer. And I gotta say the vocals on this album are amazing. I love the tone and the way they were recorded. I don't know, there's something about it. Like that to me is just such a perfect blend of just noisy, crunchy guitars and then just the vocals on top. It's really cool. Very basic labels actually on the record here. And it's in surprisingly great shape. I was stoked to find this. I honestly didn't know who they were until I bought it and looked them up, but I'm very happy that I did. Up next, we have Shades of Deep Purple by Deep Purple. As you can see, the record is, the cover itself is in terrible shape. Even in this condition, this album sounds great. It's noisy, it's poppy, but oh man, hearing the keyboards on this and hearing that their big hit off of here, which was Hush. This is the album I go to when I want to hear that kind of heavy keyboard, driving, rhythmic guitar and bass, and just sort of that edge of garage rock sort of meets blues rock meets psychedelic. This is fantastic. Worth picking up. I mean, look at this shirt. It's amazing. These guys are great. You have to own this album. I'm seriously telling you. Pick it up. I got 2 records left, and they kind of go together, and I don't know which to talk about first, so I'm just gonna do them together. So first up I have Love's second album, Decapo, and The Seeds' debut. And why I'm talking about them both is that I was at my local's farmer's market, and they have a record dealer there, and he had both of these records. Now, not this exact Decapo copy, but he had both of them, and they were both $20. And I only had $20 on me, and I wanted both, but I obviously couldn't buy both. So I was in a dilemma. Which do I pick up? And it was a tough one. It was a tough one, but the more I stood there, the more I realized, you know what? I never find the Seeds, and I'm gonna go with this one because when am I ever gonna see it again? Because I can find Love albums. I mean, I have Decapo as a reissue, and it plays just fine. Long story short, I bought this album, and I went home, and I went on Discogs just to punch it into my collection, and I found out that this is a very early pressing, like the first pressing, because the lower portions of this is in black, whereas most other copies, it's a lighter shade of green. Now, how much that makes it more worth, I really don't know. It's hard to judge because they're just that hard to come by. Regardless, I love this album. It is fantastic. Now, one song you may have heard of by them is Pushing Too Hard. That was their big hit off this album. And that's the song I knew, actually. That's the one I have in my iTunes. This is on GNP Crescendo Records. And this guy actually his name was Gene Norman, and he had a club in LA on Sunset Strip. He is worthy of an episode all by himself, man, because he put out some amazing records. But anyway, it's in relatively good shape. It is heavily scuffed up, but it does play well. There's nothing too major about it. I did clean it a number of times. So there you go. That is the Seeds debut. And then, yeah, lastly, Decapo. Okay, so this was a funny story. Probably a month after, no, more than that. Probably like 3 or 4 months after I picked up the Seeds album. I was at my local thrift store, and I found this. I'm freaking out, right? Like, oh my gosh, Love Decapo? Is it the actual record? And I'm trying to be cool in the thrift store. I'm like, oh, it is Love Decapo. Okay, so here's the kicker though. This is EKL and the record is EKS, which means this is a stereo copy in a mono sleeve. It kills me. So at some point, somebody upgraded the sleeve with the record or done something. That's just what happens, man. I mean, you just never know. I mean, it's a thrift store. It's not like I paid $20, $30 in a record store. That would be wrong. But anyway, stoked to have this. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Maybe down the road, I'll find a mono record and I'll pair it with this sleeve, and then who knows what I'll do with the stereo record. But I do have a very nice copy. It's a reissue, but that's my player copy. This one's more my street cred copy. You got original issue of Love Decapo. Okay, for whatever that means. Anyway, that being said, you should definitely pick that album up. It's not as iconic as Forever Changes, but it's still worthy of your collection. And by the way, you should check out my interview I did with Johnny Eccles, the lead guitarist for Love. Well, that'll do it for this time around. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. As always, be sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think. I am your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side.